Hello everybody and welcome to the Comics Gate Art stream. My name is Brian. How you guys doing? Today I was gonna do some refining of some other pages, but I have lots of things on my plate in terms of like what I should be doing for Englewood. So I thought I'm gonna do a little change of pace and do some character sketches for some of the supporting characters as well as antagonists over the next couple of days. For Englewood, I mean, it depends on my mood. I might go back to refining pages tomorrow, because a part of me really wants to get that done for the first 5 pages, so I can send it off to Serge and he can like get started on the colors and stuff. But you know, today I was just kind of like, oh, I kind of want to draw some characters. I want to do some character designs. So I've been doing that, which is another thing that will be in the book. If you get, I believe it's if you get the director's cut of Englewood, it will include these character sketches for supporting characters that you can expect in the story as it unfolds. I won't give anything else away. But yeah, so definitely what I thought I would do today is do some of that. So, how are you guys doing? My coffee is almost ready. I'm gonna get up and go get some in just a minute here, and then I'll come back and keep putting in work. Do you guys, by the way, first of all, am I fighting too much with the volume of the music? I might have to lower it a little bit more. Make sure that it's I just want it to be in the background. And also, can you guys hear my air conditioner? Is it like killing you? Because I mean, I don't think you guys can hear it, but I just wanted to make sure. So, alright, so before I do any more work on this female character, I'm going to go back and refine the male character a bit. His look, and I kind of like this guy, at least the way that it turned out for me. He is kind of like the tech support dude for our main character. He's like the Q, as it were. Go back and put this as it was, and so like that, I just dig the idea of making that kind of character. I'm good, Brian, in the middle of work. Good. And there's a lot of lag here, isn't there? Or you guys just aren't saying anything. That's fair. All right. Oops. It's a bit of that. I think this guy is gonna have some high cheekbones. He's based on Anthony Mackie, the guy who played Falcon. Cut the check was his line. I gotta say, man, I'm really not happy with the fact that they made Anthony Mackie. They're gonna be making him Captain America. I just not a fan. Not a fan of that. I'm not gonna do that. He's just gonna be maybe just like this. Okay, let's goatee. The main reason why I don't like it is because I know they did that in the comics, but Falcon was already his own man. And I think that when you do that, you kind of take that away from him. You make him like a shadow of himself. For a sexist stream, I find the lack of AC sounds disturbing. Yeah. I can't tell whether your volume is too low or you're being drowned out by the noise of the excavator right outside my workplace. Should have been the Winter Soldier. Yeah, or I think it's actually kind of out of character for Captain America to give up being Captain America so that he can be with Peggy Carter. I don't think that's actually in character for him. I think that if there was one guy who was the most willing to self-sacrifice and even preached about doing it, it was Cap. And to think that everything is over and done with just because Thanos is dead, yeah, I don't like that they took that tone. They went that way. I feel like the spirit of Captain America was lost there at the end when they decided he's gonna just be selfish. And I know that there are people who are like, but he deserved it, you know, after all that he went through. But I think that it's just less compelling. It's kind of like when people were like happy that Rogue finally got with Gambit in the X-Men comics because she couldn't be close to anyone. And I understand that. But personally, I think that doing that, it takes away from the Rogue character too. It makes her less appealing because you've essentially fixed the problem. And I don't think that you know, you needed to do that. But that's just my opinion, so. Does that make sense? I know that it might not make sense to you guys, but okay. It was a send-off for Cap's actor. They were trying to tie up loose ends. Yeah, but they didn't have to. I mean, I get it, but they could have just, like, you can have Cap still in the world doing stuff without making movies about it. I get what they were doing. I just don't think it was in the spirit of Captain America to do that. I don't know. I didn't know they finally had Gambit get with Rogue. Is there any indication that Rogue appreciates the ability to be close to him? Well, I mean, like, eventually they fell in love and you know, he seduced her or something. And I think it turned out, maybe I'm forgetting, but I think it turned out that for whatever reason, she was able to touch him or something. At least that was in the 90s. I don't know if they, like, went back on that. But I remember them doing that in the 90s. Ever since they brought Gambit in, I never liked him, but I just didn't think he was a very interesting character, so. But when they made him the rogue romantic love interest, I didn't mind that they did that because it kind of like, I don't know if it makes sense, but it was kind of appealing for a while. Because it was like, well, does this guy realize that, you know, she's basically like, she could kill him? And I thought that that was appealing, but then it turned out, from what I remember, that he was able to touch her. And I was like, well, that cancels everything out then. Because you've just basically taken the one thing that, you know, made relationships with Rogue impossible, and you've just thrown it out the window. But maybe I'm remembering things wrong. What? You don't like Gambit? No, not really. I mean, what's appealing about Gambit? Why do you like him? He was just like a kind of like another like kind of agile and edgy looking guy, and I don't know, I guess I just wasn't really feeling him. Gambit is my favorite X-Man. I was introduced to him when I was still in my character must be cool phase. Yeah, he's okay. He's not my favorite. I like the more noble characters that, you know, are selfless and honorable and stuff like that. And Gambit was a little too, like, morally gray for me. And I was getting a little tired of that. I think that was what it was. He was kind of a lone wolf, and I was like, yeah, but we already have Wolverine for that, you know, that kind of, I guess you could say, to fill that role. And then, like, people were, like, they were adding all these extra characters that were also, like, these kind of lone wolf personalities, like, you know, Havoc and, what was his name? Marrow and, you know, Shatterstar. He was an X-Force, but still. And like I said, like, you can't have that many. That was before they started cloning Wolverine a bunch of times. It was just, I get it, you know, you guys want like these kind of edgy characters, but there should be more characters with personalities like Colossus or Cyclops. And I know people don't like Cyclops, but I do. I think he gets a bad rap, and I think it's mainly because people don't like that he's just kind of straight-laced, and you know, he's a moral compass, you could say, or at least he's supposed to be. God knows how they may have changed him since I stopped reading. All right, so there's a guy, he's got a remote. Gambit has an awesome Cajun accent though. Well, here's the thing though, if you grew up watching the cartoon and you liked him, I get it, because they, you know, they did a good job with the character. I saw him in the comics. It was like, and it was a combination of things too, like they changed Psylocke. So when I used to read the comics, Psylocke was you know, Captain Britain's sister, I think, and she had telepathy like Professor X, but it wasn't as powerful, and she didn't really have any fighting skills, right? But she was like crucial to the team, and I think at the time Professor X wasn't really around, so Psylocke was like the second best thing. And then Jim Lee started working, I don't know if it was his idea, but Jim Lee started working on X-Men books, and Psylocke suddenly became a brain transplanted like ninja, super ninja or something. She got like altered and became a ninja. And I just was like, why? And it was just like this edgy thing that you just did. In the 90s, it was all about ninjas. And I liked ninjas, but I liked Psylocke as she was. So maybe I'm just some guy holding on to old ideas about how I think it should be, but I just did not like the direction that they took with Psylocke. Because before, she was kind of a vulnerable member of the team. So when, you know, she was like in danger sometimes, but she was absolutely vital because of her telepathic ability. And there was no Jean Grey at the time either, so, you know, it wasn't like she was redundant. But then they made her a ninja. So all that was out the window. Suddenly she was the deadliest character on the team, or one of them. And I guess I just thought, well, you know, I kind of liked it before, so I was never a big fan of that. And I think that that was just a trend. It was the trend, is what I'm saying. I'm identifying the trend of let's make everybody badass. Let's give them all leather jackets, trench coats. That was a big thing in the 90s too. Like the X-Men used to just wear costumes, and in the 90s they all started wearing jackets over their costumes or trench coats on top or something. And I think that was a trend that was started kind of by Gambit, because he was like, he wore a trench coat over his costume. And it was all just like everyone cashing in on the edge. And about as edgy as a 90s comic could be. I mean, they still had the comics code, but you know, they were trying to make their mark. All right. Anyway. Let's see. Just make sure that all this other stuff looks good. Yeah, that's all right. The cartoon introduced me to X-Men. Kind of funny that I knew who Iceman was before X-Men. Super Friends show or whatever it was called with Firestar. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, what you're talking about. Hashtag Boomer Brian. In the 90s when everything had to be edgy and covered in cables. Or everyone had knives, pouches, and big-ass guns. And that was when I tuned out. I remember when they first introduced Bishop, I was like, this is basically Cable, but black, you know? And of course it was, because he was from the same alternate future. But it was like becoming like a serious trend. Like it was hard to tell the difference between one group of characters and another. Speaking of Cable, Rob Liefeld came up with Cable, and I dug the character at first, right? I was like, oh, this is interesting, and I still like Cable in concept. I do. And I mean, part of it is to do with like Arthur Adams' rendition of Cable was fucking awesome looking. But when Rob Liefeld left Marvel to go do Image Comics, and he had his book Youngblood, which was basically, and that was another thing, is that Image kind of ruined comics for me too, because while they were supposedly coming up with their own ideas, the only thing they did was they rehashed the X-Men model, but they changed the roots. So, you know, they're not mutants, they're something else, but you could see that they were just X-Men ripoffs with their own little twist, and they did it multiple times, like Youngblood and Wildcats. There was a couple of other teams that were on Image Comics rosters, and they were all just X-Men characters, just like renamed. There was like literally there was a chick named Zealot who was Psylocke, you know, a ninja broad with katanas, and there was like a dude named something Claw, and he was basically like Wolverine. I mean, they didn't even try. Like, it was just it was really obvious. And Rob Liefeld had a book called Youngblood, and in there was a character, I shit you not, he was like some big black dude with cables and guns, and his name was Cord. Not Cable, Cord. And I was like, what? Are you guys even trying? That's why I stopped. I mean, Spawn was basically Spider-Man with edgy demonic, you know, backstory and, you know, black main character. And again, if you grew up in the 90s, I have no hate, honestly. I get it. You know, it's what you were around. I could see why you're fans. But to me, I was just like kind of like over it, you know, by that time. I mean, everyone was just, most people who were making books were just taking inspiration from existing Marvel characters, and I get that, or DC ones, and I get that everyone does that. But to some degree, you have to try to separate yourself. I mean, there's a big difference between Pitt, which you might remember from the 90s, which was essentially like a cross between Swamp Thing, Hulk, and like a werewolf or something, combined with like a little kid sidekick. And but it was basically like the Hulk in a lot of ways. There's a big difference between the way they handled Pit and the way they handled the Max, where the Max was a really great and interesting story. That, you know, had a character that some people might confuse for being, you know, Hulk inspired or something, but it was so different, and in so many ways it was really unique. But anyway, I'm gonna come right back. I'm gonna go get a coffee. Obviously you can tell that I'm low energy and I need it, and I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, Spider-Man mixed with Devilman. That's a good way to describe it. Gen 13, Cyberforce. Yeah, exactly. I didn't read those, but there was one. What was it? They were all like, oh, Wetworks. I mean, that one looked like it was trying to be original in some way, but yeah. Wetworks is another one. Alright, so I'm going to draw a couple faces. This character that I'm drawing, his name is Eric. And his code name, you could say his code name or nickname is Echo. And he is, he works with our main character and kind of helps him on the techie end. So he's kind of a, let me give him some sideburns. I think I'm going to give him some sideburns. Gotta make him stand out in some way. So we're gonna give him some sideburns. He's kind of like, what was that guy's name that helped the Punisher? Microchip? It's kind of like that. That's how I see it. And these are like dreadlocks. So I'm just drawing short dreads. Because that is how the character is described. I thought I would give him, I don't think short dreads looks good when it's long, so he's got short dreads and like a fade or whatever. What? We'll do like that. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Hey, Shaman King, popping back in from where? Are you on Turd Flinging Monkey or something? Lol, I was just going to say, you just described Bishop. Yeah, right? And the thing is, I think the Bishop character concept is good. And I like his powers, but I don't like his design. I never liked it. I thought it was just too, like I said, it was just too similar to Cable. He was basically just Cable. They just, I don't know, man. Like, there was like a serious lack of creativity in the 90s. When I think about it compared to, like the 60s, I mean, and even the 70s, like the 70s, they were doing some crazy shit. And all of it was like following trends. I don't know what the 90s was following, honestly. Maybe Terminator? I'm not sure what was inspiring it. This is before The Matrix came out, so it's not that. But like in the 60s, they were inspired by, you know, monster movies and the the Cold War and nuclear holocaust and all this, like, the, after the atom bomb and everything, like, there were all these concerns about that. In the 70s, there was a lot of inspiration from blaxploitation movies, kung fu movies. There was like a new wave of horror films that were really cool. And so, all that makes perfect sense. Like, all of that makes perfect sense. Because it was in the trends, and so, like, they were just following the trends. And I guess if we were following the trends, let's see here. Yeah, I like the cheekbones. If we were going to look at the trends of today, I could see characters being inspired by, or at least like stories inspired by social media, inspired by, well, what's in right now. Superhero movies are in right now, so I guess that's kind of overly meta. Okay, this guy's smiling here. I see him as kind of a happy-go-lucky guy. I'm not really sure, though. But he's got a gap in his teeth. So let's do this a little bit differently. He's gonna be talking. Okay. And his mouth. And as before, we'll just, he's got a goatee. Yeah. Mustache. Okay. And we'll color in the hair. It's kind of hard to come up with something new when some characters have been around for at least 2 decades before you enter the arena. Some characters I've come up with are based on DC properties, and I have to revamp them somehow. No, you can't really come up with something new. I get that. When I say, but you can, like, here's the thing though. You should make an effort to separate your character from the archetype that you're inspiring it from. Like, there are lots and lots and lots of comics that have taken Superman as a model to make their own versions of. I mean, Shazam or Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, is a really good example of that. But how does Captain Marvel differentiate himself from Superman even while existing in the same universe as Superman? Well, I think there are a few ways. One of the main ways that Captain Marvel separates himself from Superman is the fact that it's a little boy that turns into a superhero, whereas Superman is Kal-El all the time. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but they are very interesting takes, right? There are a lot of people who say the Superman character is really interesting because the Superman persona is the real person, while the Kal-El persona is the fake person. That's the person he's pretending to be. That's the secret identity. And that's an interesting way to look at it. And I'm sure that when Simon & Schuster came up with it, they weren't really thinking about it in that way. But it is a really interesting way to think about it. Whereas Captain Marvel, the thing that makes it really interesting is it is a more, let's say it's more focused on wish fulfillment, which was what they were going for when they came up with Captain Marvel. They were looking to compete with Superman, and what they did was they just took Superman and they said, how about if it's a boy all the time? Little boys would love that, and sure enough, they did. Captain Marvel did better than Superman for a while because of that wish fulfillment. DC Comics bought him so they wouldn't have to worry about competing with him anymore. And so I think that that is a one way that you can do it, where you make it pretty interesting, without even like having to be so, without being so different. Obviously he looks a little bit different, but not a whole lot. And the other thing is that his power set is slightly different as well. You know, like Captain Marvel doesn't have X-ray vision, and he doesn't like have the cold breath and all that, but he does have the lightning, which Superman does not have. So they're slightly different, but by and large, they're very similar, you know? So, let's see here. All right. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Turd Flinging Monkey is back from writing his book, just checking in. X-Men the Animated Series was around in 92. I think Terminator came out around then. What was the... Was that the reason? That's a good point, Zarangs. It might be. You might be right about that. That also might be the inspiration for Wetworks. Where all these guys had like golden armor that looked like liquid metal. And the digital coloring thing had just blown up around that time too. Yes, and also that Shazam's powers come from magic, whereas Superman's powers come from, it's a science fiction answer, let's put it that way. Terminator 2 came out in 91. Captain Marvel / Shazam is a henshin hero. Oh yeah. The funny thing is Captain Marvel was given better elements for faults in the character. He has to grow up still, which means mistakes will be made. He can be killed when not transformed. Yeah, he's definitely got weaknesses that Superman doesn't have. Also, well, originally in the books, though, they made it to where, like, he completely changed. So when he was Captain Marvel, it wasn't like he still had the mind of a kid originally. But as, like, they moved away from that, actually, I think Bruce Timm might be the one that actually, you know, went with that approach, which I love. Because I do like the Captain Marvel character a lot. And I think that, the way that Bruce Timm approached it was really good, because he did like sort of embrace that idea, like, well, what if he acted like a kid, you know? And I thought that was really interesting, really interesting. So my point is, though, yeah, it's not, you can't come up with brand new ideas very easily. I don't want to count it out completely, 'cause, you know, somebody might come up with something, but you certainly can take even existing properties that you are a fan of and, you know, put a spin on it to make it more interesting, or try to tell it in another way, you know, try to change the context. I mean, look what they did with Brightburn. They were basically telling Superman's story from a horror perspective. And I think, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting too. I don't know if you can make a whole comic about it, but you get where I'm coming from, right? So like Bombshell is inspired by some things that exist. There's a character in Marvel Comics called Nitro, and he was a supervillain that fought Captain Marvel, the Marvel version of Captain Marvel. And he had the power to explode. And I thought that was just a super neat power. I just dug it. But he's a villain, so there was no desire or need to use it responsibly. And so I thought, well, what if there was a hero that had that power? How would they be able to, like, you know, it's like a big responsibility. I mean, when you're evil and you have that power, who cares? But when you're heroic and you devoted your life to protecting people because you have this gift, then how do you do that? And so I thought that'd be an interesting thing to explore. And then I took it a step further and I said, well, why not make it a female? Because how would, like, again, most of the time when, especially the way they write Marvel these days, female superheroes don't have the way that they write them now, female superheroes don't have any, how do I put this? They don't have any obligation to self-sacrifice. They don't have any, there's nothing pushing them to see what they're willing to risk. Like, there's no call for them to be accountable, right? It's all, they are female superheroes because women are underrepresented. And the only thing it's about is power. And this is the way the writers are treating it. Even the Captain Marvel movie that came out for the MCU was like that. Captain Marvel didn't have any responsibility to anyone. The whole movie was about her, right? And so, like, if that's the case, then why not explore the idea of a woman who has a highly destructive power and wants to use it in a very responsible way? You know, she has to be accountable for what she does. I think that is a really interesting thing, and that's what I was going for. Okay, so there's that. Here's this guy. There you go. What do you think? And then he's got like a drone, so I guess I'll draw a drone. Superman doesn't have many faults. Well, I think Bruce Timm worked that out very well too. I like the idea that Kryptonians are psychokinetic. Okay. So how would one do a story based on the Fantastic Four? You mean like create a new concept in a super family? I mean, the Incredibles, they're a bit derivative, but they did take some, I mean, it's pretty derivative, but they did put some interesting spin on it. The only thing I would do is, if I could take the Incredibles as an example, where it's a family. Now, the Fantastic Four is largely a family, but it's really just three members that are a family, and it's like, so it's like Sue and Reed are married. If you go with the, you know, after they're married version. Is it just me, or do feminist writers chase Bomb Queen and try to pass it off as a hero? I don't know who Bomb Queen is. Sorry. But yeah, like in the Fantastic Four, you have Sue and Reed, and they are married, and then Johnny is the brother of Sue, so he's family. Ben is not related to anyone, but he's known Reed for so long that he's family. So it is largely a family, but it's not like in The Incredibles, where it's like clearly a nuclear family with superpowers, right? Like that's a bit more, that's a bit on the nose. That's more on the nose than you know, the Fantastic Four was even. But I think still, you know, what you could do is you could make them a different kind of family. Maybe they're a family with superpowers, but they are a redneck family. Like they're kind of low income, poor. You could make them, I'm just spitballing, okay? You could make them a family of superheroes from, like, here's a crazy one. What if they're a bunch of Mormons, and it's like a man and his like 3 wives, and or what if they're Amish and there's like a big extended family and they got powers? Or what if, you know, I don't know, like there's all kinds of ways you could like play with the formula, and you can even do it to the point where they like they no longer resemble the Fantastic Four anymore. Like people don't even know what it is you're talking about. when you say, well, these guys are inspired by the FF, and they say, how? You know? So, oh man, Bomb Queen is hilarious. Half-naked supervillain that runs a city and lets people murder each other. She's completely self-absorbed, but thinks she's a hero of sorts. Well, that sounds like some feminist shit. Let me look her up. Bomb Queen. Oh, that's an interesting costume. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not really even a great looking character, to be honest, but okay. Yeah, that sounds like, that's the thing though, like feminists don't, a lot of people on the left, I'm not gonna just pick on feminists here, a lot of people on the left don't understand the difference between power and responsibility. They just conflate them, and then they ignore the responsibility part. You know? Anyone who has an important job to do, you need to give them authority in order to do that job. But the only thing that the left can see is that they have power as a result. And it's an unfortunate thing, because it means that they can't see responsibility when it's in their, when it's there. They can't see that. All they can, and it just makes you like, well, shit, I don't want to give you any power because you don't understand what this comes with. And I know that this is a played out Spider-Man thing. I'm not going to say it, but you know what I'm saying. It's true. You know? I mean, it's absolutely true. Okay. Anyway. Okay, those are lights. Amish already have superpowers. They build barns at super speed. Yeah. As a villain? No, I don't think feminists would see it as a villain, though. I think that they like the idea. They just like that it's a woman in charge. That's what it is. They'd like Mama if no one told them. It's one of the best villains, by the way, ever. Anyway, so this is a drone. I'm just drawing it here for some context. And actually, no. There we go. All right. Okay. So this guy's done. I will start on this one. I still have to like do a little bit more to it, and then I'll have to wrap up. So let's see. Skin him, hit him with some slow-mo and toss him off a roof. Feminist. OMG, so powerful. Yeah. Well, it's just about that. Like, you know, you have to be, it's a pretty twisted thing. But honestly, that's, I think, what you'd have to believe. Honestly. So. Alright, now I'm going to think about clothes for this character here. Let's go, I got an idea. I'm just going to go pretty straightforward. So. People often think that power is the end goal, but power is just a tool to achieve a goal. Yeah, good point. Okay. Let's see. Just looking up some ideas. I think I need a refill. Oh no, I still have some left. All right. Forrest Gump, beta. Feminists were sad that Jenny didn't become a Fortune 500 CEO, though. Who's Jenny? Are you just saying in general? Alright. We're gonna do hand wraps here and here. Like that. Maybe a little bit more. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. There. I'm thinking barefoot. I don't know if I'll keep it, but that's what I'm thinking. Some wraps here. Okay. So what's going on here? Feminist said that... Oh, yeah, no. In the movie, she wound up as a single mother waitress when she decided to reconnect with Forrest. Not to mention that she is dying from AIDS. What is up with SJWs creating black characters and having them be boring as a wet towel? Well, they don't want them to be, like, you know, flawed because that's racist. So instead, they make them just, like, super noble and woke and boring as a result. They don't have flaws. They're all the same. They believe the same things. You know, the black men are all sexy. The white women all want them. The black women are all, like, empowered and don't put up with shit. It's just the same old thing. Because they don't care about characters. They care about the narrative. Did anyone ever read the sequel? The author wrote it, but I passed on it. The sequel to what? I don't know what you mean. Jenny was the biggest hoe in cinema history, taking advantage of a mentally challenged man. Oh, you guys are talking about... I've never seen Forrest Gump. I never saw it, never got around to it. So, I'm sorry. I guess I'm about to lose all my subs now. Speaking of, I saw Forrest Gump back in high school. Speaking of representation problems, has anyone followed the struggles of authors in the young adult novel field? No, I mean, like, no, I'm afraid not. All right, it's 102. I gotta quit. I'm sorry, guys, but this is where I'm at. So let me turn off the underdrawing layer so we can look at it. That is a supporting character there. Let me know what you guys think about him. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the look, and but I would like to get your feedback on that. And this is another female character I just started on. So I will resume this tomorrow and get her done. I will also include a couple of faces for facial expressions. But yeah, so I'm going to sign off. Thanks, guys, for coming on the Comicsgate art stream. If you like this video, please give me a like. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and hit the bell for notifications. And leave me a comment. I like to look at the comments. I don't get a lot of them. I understand why, but still, I appreciate it. I just like that you guys are here and supporting me. I feel really passionately about this project. I really want to get into comics. I really want to help make some change, even if it's in a really, really small way. You know, we got to move the needle, as it were. So, you know, whatever, I guess whatever it takes, you know. So, with that said, I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks, guys, for coming on the Comicsgate art stream, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one, everybody.